I don't know exactly how to explain it. Looking back, I can see how everything slowly unfolded. But at the time, it all felt like something I couldn't control. Let me start at the beginning. My name is Emily, and I'm married to John. We've been together for 5 years now, and to everyone on the outside, we have this perfect little life. John's a great guy, steady, reliable, caring. We don't fight, we don't argue. We've got this calm, predictable routine that most people would envy. The kind of life people dream of, right? But here's the thing. I've always had a bit of an adventurous streak in me. I don't mean wild, crazy stuff, just a need for change, for something different now and then. Nothing serious. I've always worked hard, kept my head down, but lately I couldn't help but feel like something was missing. Like I needed more. More excitement. More passion. And I didn't know how to find it, or if I even should be looking for it. But there was this restlessness inside me. It started with little things. I'd find myself daydreaming during dinner, zoning out when John would talk about his day. I wasn't unhappy. I still loved him. But I couldn't shake this feeling that there was something else out there, something I wasn't getting. I know that probably sounds horrible. Like, here I am, married to this wonderful man, and I'm over here wishing for something more. But it was like a whisper, a quiet voice in the back of my head telling me I was missing out on something. And then there was Mark. Mark is my boss. He's not like John. He's older, more experienced, and there's something magnetic about him. The first time I met him, I thought he was just another corporate guy, you know? Serious, professional, a little intimidating even. But then I started noticing how he looked at me. It wasn't just about work anymore. At first, I told myself I was imagining things. He was just being nice. Friendly. Maybe even a little flirtatious, but in a harmless way. It wasn't like I was looking for attention. But the more I saw him, the more I started feeling that pull. He'd make these little comments. Compliments, really. That made me feel seen in a way I hadn't in a long time. Emily, you always know how to make a presentation pop. I've never seen anyone work a PowerPoint like you. And when he said that, it wasn't just about the work. It was the way he looked at me. His gaze lingered a little too long. And, for the first time in a while, I felt desirable. It's hard to explain. I wasn't looking to cheat, wasn't looking to mess things up with John. But with Mark, I felt something different. Something that had been missing for months. I started dressing differently for work. Nothing too obvious, just little changes. More attention to my makeup, choosing outfits that made me feel confident, a little more daring than what I normally wore. I'd catch Mark looking at me more often, and it felt good. It felt like I was something more than just someone's wife, more than just an employee. It was flattering, and maybe that's what it came down to. I just wanted to feel seen. I told myself I wasn't crossing any lines. It was all harmless, right? Just friendly banter. But the lines got blurry fast. We started staying late at work more often, working on projects together, talking after hours. I'd tell John I had a late meeting, or that I had to finish something up. At first, John didn't think much of it. He trusted me, and honestly, I wasn't doing anything wrong. At least that's what I kept telling myself. But then, when Mark would walk by my desk and brush against my arm, I could feel a spark. It wasn't a big thing, just a touch, but every time it happened, my heart would skip a beat. I'd feel this rush of heat, a feeling I hadn't felt in so long. One evening, after everyone had left the office, it was just me and Mark. We were finishing up a report, and he was standing close to me, pointing at the screen. His voice was low, smooth, and when he looked at me, his eyes were intense. I should have stepped back. I should have told him it was time to go home. But, instead, I didn't. I let him stand there, close enough that I could feel his breath on my skin. The silence between us felt heavy, charged. And then it happened. Without thinking, I turned my head, and before I knew it, we were kissing. I don't know what came over me. It was like my body acted without my permission, like my mind had no say in the matter. I knew it was wrong, I knew it could destroy everything, but in that moment, it felt so right. The kiss wasn't just a kiss. It was everything I had been missing. It was this explosion of feeling, of excitement, of desire that I hadn't realized I'd been starving for. And then we stopped. I pulled away, my heart racing. I felt guilty, ashamed, like I had done something unforgivable. But at the same time, I couldn't shake the way I felt. Alive. Thrilled. Mark didn't pressure me. He just looked at me with that calm, knowing smile of his. He didn't say anything for a moment, just let the silence hang between us. I should have told him to leave. I should have told him I was married, and I was making a huge mistake. But instead, I just stood there, processing the flood of emotions inside me. "We can pretend this didn't happen, if that's what you want," he said, his voice surprisingly gentle. "But you don't have to. It's okay, Emily." I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what I wanted. So, I said nothing. I just let the moment hang in the air. We left the office shortly after that. Neither of us brought it up again. But it didn't go away. It stayed with me, and I think that's when I knew things were about to change. I don't know if I was ready for it, but I couldn't go back. The excitement, the thrill, the rush, it was all too addictive. I kept going back to work, kept finding excuses to be close to Mark. And every time he smiled at me, every time he made me feel special, I felt that pull, that desire to keep going. I didn't know where it would lead, but in those moments I didn't care. I know I should have stopped. I know I should have thought about John. But I didn't. I just kept following this feeling, this desire that was growing inside me, pulling me deeper. And that was my mistake. I never thought it would happen this way. It was a Thursday afternoon, just like any other. Or at least, I thought it would be. John had been so sweet that morning. He'd made me coffee, and we talked about plans for the weekend. He was always so thoughtful. He never missed a chance to show me he cared. But that day, he said something that made me feel uneasy. Even though I didn't want to admit it. "I was thinking," he said, casually as we sat at the kitchen table, "I'll pick you up after work today. Maybe we can go grab dinner, just the two of us. I'll even bring flowers." His voice was so cheerful, and I could hear the excitement in his tone. I could tell he was looking forward to it. But the moment the words left his mouth, a knot twisted in my stomach. I didn't want to feel this way. I didn't want to feel like I was trapped in this perfect little bubble with him, like there was no way out. I told myself it was just a feeling. Maybe I was tired, or maybe I was just overthinking things as usual. But deep down, I knew what was really going on. I couldn't stop myself from thinking about Mark. That day at the office, I was a mess. Mark and I had been texting all day. It started off as a few harmless comments about work, but soon it turned into something else. He knew how to make me laugh, how to make me feel like I was the most important person in the room. We exchanged little glances, smiles that lasted just a bit too long. The chemistry was undeniable, and I could feel the anticipation building inside me, this hunger I couldn't ignore. I tried to push it aside as I worked. Tried to focus on the endless reports I had to finish, but it wasn't working. I kept looking at my phone, checking the screen for his messages. And every time I saw his name pop up, a wave of excitement rushed over me. This wasn't supposed to be happening. This wasn't the kind of person I was. But I couldn't help it. Mark and I had been sneaking around for a few weeks now, meeting in the office after hours, sometimes at his place, sometimes in the parking garage. It wasn't a full-blown affair yet, but it was definitely something more than just casual flirting. I would catch him watching me when I wasn't looking, a little smirk on his lips, like he knew something I didn't. I was playing with fire, and I knew it, but I couldn't stop. Every touch, every stolen kiss, felt like a drug, and I was addicted. And then, it happened. I had just finished a project when Mark leaned in a little too close to me at my desk. We were alone in the office, and the tension between us was thick. Without saying anything, he slid his hand down my arm, sending a shock of electricity through me. I looked up at him, and there was that look again. The one that told me everything I needed to know. His hand moved to my waist and I let him pull me closer. We kissed again. And this time, it wasn't just a kiss. It was desperate, like neither of us could get enough. His hands roamed, and I let him. Something inside me just wanted this. And it wasn't like I had planned it. It wasn't like I was even thinking about John at that moment. I was just in the here and now, lost in this feeling with Mark. I could taste him, feel him so close, and it was the most alive I'd felt in a long time. And then, just as quickly as it started, I pulled away. "Mark, stop," I said, breathless, stepping back from him. "This isn't right." He looked at me, a little smirk still on his lips. "I think you know it's right, Emily," he replied quietly, his voice low and confident. He was so sure of himself, so sure of me. But I couldn't stay there anymore. I glanced at the clock and saw that it was almost time for John to pick me up. I was in a panic now. The rush of excitement had faded, and I was left with this sinking feeling of guilt. I had to leave. I had to get out of there, before it all came crashing down. I grabbed my things and quickly checked my phone. There were several missed calls from John. "Where are you?" I'm waiting outside, call me. The messages from him were piling up, and my heart sank as I read them. I could feel the weight of what I was about to do. I had to face him. I couldn't hide anymore. As I walked out of the office, I saw John standing by the entrance, holding a bouquet of flowers. His face lit up when he saw me. He was so happy, so hopeful, and I felt like the worst person in the world. But I smiled at him, trying to hide the guilt gnawing at me. "Hey," he said, holding up the flowers. "I thought I'd surprise you." And then, just as I was about to reach for him, I heard Mark behind me. "Emily, wait up," he called, his voice carrying over the parking lot. I froze. For a moment, everything stopped. John looked at me and then at Mark, and I could see the confusion in his eyes. I could see the shift in his expression, the moment when he realized something was off. Mark walked up behind me, close enough that I could feel his breath on the back of my neck. He was smiling, that cocky, knowing smile of his, like he owned the moment. And then, without thinking, without warning, Mark gave me a playful smack on the ass. It wasn't rough, but it wasn't gentle either. It was deliberate. And it was in front of John. I don't know what was going through Mark's mind. Maybe he was trying to assert some kind of dominance. Maybe he thought it would make me laugh, but I saw John's face go white, his jaw clenching. His whole body went stiff. I could feel the tension in the air. Everything froze for a second, and in that silence, I realized just how bad this was. John's eyes locked with mine, and then he looked at the bouquet in his hands. Without a word, he dropped the flowers to the ground. The sound of them hitting the pavement was like a slap to the face. His eyes were filled with anger, but there was something else there too. Disbelief. Pain. "I can't believe you," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. His eyes were on me, but he wasn't really looking at me. He was looking through me, as if he didn't even know who I was anymore. And then, before I could say anything, he turned and walked away. "John?" I called after him, but he didn't stop. He didn't look back. I felt like the world was crumbling around me. Mark stood there, watching it all unfold, still with that stupid grin on his face. I wanted to scream, I wanted to apologize, to take everything back. But it was too late. It was already broken. John got in his car and drove off, leaving me standing there, unsure of what had just happened. And Mark? Well, he didn't say anything. He just stood there, waiting for me to make the next move. But I didn't. I just stood there, watching John drive away, my heart sinking deeper with every passing second. I didn't know what to do when I got home. I didn't even want to go back to the apartment, but there was nowhere else to go. The ride home was a blur. I didn't even notice the streets, the buildings, the lights. All I could think about was the look on John's face when he saw Mark slap my ass. The way he dropped the flowers. The way he walked away, like he couldn't bear to look at me for another second. I knew what was coming, but I still wasn't prepared for it. When I walked through the door, the silence was suffocating. John was sitting on the couch, his head in his hands, staring at the floor. He didn't look up when I entered. He didn't even acknowledge me at first. "John!" I said softly, my voice shaking. I tried to sound calm, like this was just a bad moment, like everything was fixable. But I knew deep down that nothing would ever be the same again. He didn't respond, didn't even move. I walked toward him, my heart pounding in my chest. My mind was racing. What could I say? How could I fix this? "I'm sorry," I started, but my voice caught in my throat. The words felt hollow. "I never meant for this to happen." John looked up then, and his eyes were red. He was holding back tears, and I could see how much this was tearing him apart. He wiped his face with his sleeve, then took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. "You never meant for this to happen." His voice was flat, almost like he was numb. "Is that supposed to make it okay? Emily, you kissed him. You let him touch you. You let him—" His words trailed off as he shook his head, as if he couldn't even finish the sentence. It was like he couldn't comprehend the reality of it, like his mind was still trying to catch up with everything that had just happened. I didn't want to hurt you," I said, my voice breaking. I felt pathetic. I didn't even know if I was trying to make myself feel better or if I was just saying things because I didn't know what else to say. It just happened. I didn't plan it. I didn't want it to go this far. He stood up abruptly, pacing around the room, running a hand through his hair. "How long?" His voice was tight. "How long has this been going on, Emily?" I couldn't look at him. I felt so small, so ashamed. I took a deep breath and whispered, "A few weeks." "A few weeks," he repeated, as if he couldn't believe it. "A few weeks, And you never thought to tell me. You didn't think to talk to me. You just hid it. You kept lying to me, to my face. I'm sorry, I said, but it sounded so weak, so useless. I didn't want to hurt you. I didn't know how to tell you. My voice wavered with the weight of everything I had done, but it wasn't enough to fix what was already broken. John shook his head in disbelief. You didn't know how to tell me? He laughed bitterly. You didn't think maybe I deserved to know, or was I just some backup plan for when things didn't go the way you wanted? Is that it? I felt the anger in his words, and I couldn't even blame him for it. I had betrayed him in the worst possible way. I had been selfish, thoughtless, and cruel, and now there was no taking it back. John, please. I reached out to him, desperate. I know I've messed up. I know I've hurt you, and I don't expect you to forgive me right now, but please, don't leave me. We can fix this. I love you. I do. This was just a mistake. Please, just talk to me. But John wasn't listening anymore. His face was hard, like a wall had gone up between us. I could see it in his eyes. He was done. And it wasn't just the betrayal. It was the way I had made him feel like he wasn't enough, like I had been searching for something outside of our marriage. He didn't deserve that. He didn't deserve me. I don't think I can do this anymore, Emily, he said quietly, his voice cold and distant. I don't think I can be with someone who doesn't respect me, who doesn't value what we have. I don't think I can love someone who doesn't love me enough to be honest. I felt like I was falling, like the ground was slipping out from under me. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I couldn't breathe. What are you saying? I whispered, tears filling my eyes. I'm saying I need space, he replied, his voice steady now. I'm saying I need to figure out what's next. And I'm saying that I can't stay here, pretending like everything's okay. I can't do that. I stood there, stunned, watching him as he grabbed his keys from the counter. He didn't look back. He didn't say anything else. He just walked out the door. And that was it. He was gone. I sank down onto the couch, my chest tight with panic. I knew this wasn't the end. This was just the beginning of the fallout. I had ruined everything. And I wasn't sure how to fix it. Maybe I couldn't. The rest of the night was a blur. I didn't sleep, didn't eat. I just sat there, staring at the empty space where John used to be. I kept replaying the day in my mind, over and over again. The flowers. The smile on his face when he thought everything was fine. The way he dropped them when he saw Mark behind me. The look in his eyes as he walked out the door. It felt like I was drowning in my own mistakes. Mark texted me later that night. You okay? It said. I didn't reply. I didn't know how to explain to him that what had started as something thrilling and exciting had turned into a nightmare. What had I done? I loved John. I knew I did, but I couldn't undo what had happened. I couldn't undo the hurt I'd caused. And now, he was gone. And I was left with nothing. The days after John left were a blur of emptiness. It felt like I was walking through a fog, unable to make sense of anything. The apartment was cold and quiet, and every corner reminded me of what I'd lost. I kept telling myself that it would get better, that John just needed time to cool off, to process everything, but deep down, I knew it was over. I tried to call him several times, but he wouldn't pick up. I left messages, sent texts, but nothing. The silence was deafening. I even went to his work to try and see him, but he'd told everyone he wasn't coming in for a few days. I left a note for him with his assistant, but I never got a response. It felt like he had erased me from his life. And then there was Mark. He texted me once or twice, but I didn't want to talk to him. I didn't want him to be a part of this. I had made a choice that led to the destruction of my marriage, and I didn't want to drag him into it any more than I already had. I had been using him to fill a void, to escape the feelings I'd been ignoring in my relationship with John, and now I had to deal with the fallout. But Mark, being Mark, wouldn't leave it alone. Are you okay? His text came through one evening. It had been a week since everything had gone down, and I had barely slept or eaten in that time. I was a wreck. I didn't know how to fix what I'd broken. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I texted back, my fingers trembling as I typed. I messed everything up. You didn't mess anything up, he replied quickly. You just did what felt right in the moment. I paused. That wasn't what I wanted to hear. It wasn't the reassurance I needed. But then again, what was I looking for from him? A part of me wanted to justify my actions, but wanted him to tell me it wasn't my fault. But I knew deep down that it was. I was the one who had cheated. I was the one who had betrayed the man who had loved me for years. Mark wasn't responsible for any of it. I'm sorry, I replied. I can't do this with you. I don't want to hurt John any more than I already have. Mark didn't reply right away. He let the silence sit for a few moments, and then he sent a final message. Whatever you decide, just don't do it for me. Do it for yourself? I didn't respond to that either. I didn't know what he wanted from me, or if I even wanted the same things anymore. But I didn't care. My heart was elsewhere. My heart was with John, the man I had betrayed, and I couldn't find him. Not when I needed him the most. The divorce papers came a few days later. John had been avoiding me, but he had gone through with it. It wasn't a huge surprise. What had I expected? That he would forgive me just because I said I was sorry. That the damage could be undone with a few tears and a broken heart. No, it didn't work like that. And I knew, deep down, that John had already made up his mind before the papers were even served to me. I sat on the couch, staring at the papers in my hands. The weight of them was heavy. I couldn't even process it. John and I were over. We were officially done. I knew I had lost him, and in some ways, I was glad he was walking away. He deserved better than me. He deserved someone who would appreciate the life he wanted to build, someone who didn't throw everything away for a fleeting moment of excitement. I had hurt him beyond repair, and I didn't know how to make it right. There were no words left to say. I could keep apologizing, keep begging, but the truth was that John had already made his decision. I was too late. A few days after the divorce was finalized, I ran into Mark again. He had texted me once or twice in the weeks since John left, but I hadn't replied. I wasn't ready to face him yet. I wasn't ready to deal with the reality of what I had done to John, or to myself. But now, here I was, standing across from Mark in the same parking lot where it all began. Hey, he said, his voice casual, like we hadn't just crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. He looked the same as always, confident, cocky even. He was the kind of guy who knew exactly how to charm a room, to make everyone feel special, and for a while I thought I needed that. But now, I was looking at him and feeling nothing. Hi, I said, trying to sound normal. My heart wasn't in it. I didn't want to be here. I didn't want him. I heard about the divorce, he said, leaning against his car. He didn't look surprised, just matter of fact. I take it things didn't work out with you and John. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. Yeah, it's over. Sorry to hear that. His tone was flat, almost like he didn't really care. And part of me was grateful for that. Because I didn't want sympathy from him. I didn't want him to feel sorry for me. I didn't deserve it. I wanted to say something. I wanted to tell him that I was done with this, that I was done with him, and this whole mess I had created. But I couldn't find the words. He watched me for a moment, a faint smile tugging at the corner of his lips. So, what now? He asked, almost like he was testing me. Are you going to fix things with John? Or are you going to keep playing the field? I looked at him, my heart heavy with the weight of what I had lost. I don't know. I said, the truth sinking in. But whatever happens, I need to fix myself first. Mark didn't reply. He just gave a small nod, and for a moment, I saw something flicker in his eyes. Maybe it was regret. Or maybe it was just indifference. Good luck with that, he said, turning away, walking back toward his car. And as he drove away, I stood there in the parking lot, the cold wind biting at my skin, wondering if I would ever find my way back. I had lost John. I had lost myself. And now, all I had left was the aftermath of my own choices. And there was no way to undo them.